recently in the news, the governor pulling a Donald Trump, I think. So instead of maybe saying, well, I appreciate the words, the critical words from Mr. Astorino, but listen, I just don't agree. That would be a political way of handling somebody criticizing you. But instead, the governor went right at Astorino. Hey, you better take care of your own area, all these high taxes. And what do you think, Rob Astorino? Is that a page out of the Trump playbook?
He is so disingenuous, it's not even funny. Actually, it was funny. I laughed because, and I think most people laughed because he was just dead wrong. He gave his State of the State, right? He's going around the state on his little tour. And, so he talked about the high property taxes all over the state. But then he specifically said, and here in Westchester, blah, blah, blah. Now, he knows about 65% of the taxes are from the schools, which he then totally ignored and said was not really part of his proposal. And what his proposal was kind of Soviet-esque, if you will. He basically said, I'm going to order, which he has no authority whatsoever, that's why everyone laughed, basically ordering county executives to herd all the local officials into a room, browbeat them, and tell them what they need to cut, and then put that on the ballot for a vote. And if voters reject the cuts, you have to keep putting it on the ballot year in and year out until it passes.
Wow.
No, that's pretty funny.
And I got to tell you, this it's really so obvious as to what's going on with all the corruption and everything happening in Albany. Part of the reason that these traveling State of the States are going on is because it would be an embarrassment if he held it in Albany because nobody was going to show. None of the legislators were showing. I mean, a good number were going to boycott.
Well, you need a diversion, and that's what he does. He lights smoke bombs, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere he goes. Don't pay attention to this. Look over there. And the corruption, look at what's happening in the Mohawk Valley, right? Nano is falling apart. The Buffalo Billion falling apart. It's all the corruption. I know you remember, but a few years ago in 2014 when I criticized the Nano project, I got heavily attacked by that.
You did. I mean, and I think I might have attacked you on the air over that. I mean, we're in the middle of this whole thing. It was big for the transformational for us here. And now we're watching this governor, it all unraveled. When we're watching this governor, we've not heard from him at this point. We've not heard a word from him.
Now, my criticism was not that we were going to have jobs created.
Right.
We need that. We need that everywhere. My criticism was the way everything is being put together in the state because it's false. It's based on sand and not on concrete. And it's all starting to collapse everywhere. Yeah. And look at his new proposal now. Let's pay people to live in upstate New York. Well, how about you just fix the problems and they'll live there because they want to live there?
Yeah.
Or free college tuition. There's nothing free about college tuition. Someone pays for it, and you know who pays for it? All the time. It's the middle class.
Yeah.
So look at the proposal for the free college tuition, which sounds wonderful. So I'm making $100,000 household income, which is the level, right? So I get free college tuition. My neighbor makes $100,001. My neighbor is paying for his family's college tuition and my family's college tuition. How fair is that?
Right.
I think the level was 120, but your point
no,
is...
No, it moves up. It started at 100,000, then went to 125,000. But either way,
it's a fair point.
Delineation, and someone's going to be paying.
So, and it's great to have this talk. And by the way, doing it with Bernie Sanders. What are you looking at here? I mean, listen, you battled him out for governor, and I have a feeling that in 2018 we might see your name all over the place on signs all over again. What do you make of this change? When he first came into office, they said, Assemblyman Butler used the line on Friday, this is the best Republican we've had in office in years. He really seemed like he was a moderate. But now he's gone way to the left here, and even this free tuition and standing up there with Bernie Sanders. What do you make of all of it?
Well, he has never stood for a thing. He is the most transactional human being I've ever met in my life, in that there's no core principles. He blows with the wind, he polls, and he figures out where he's got to be that will land him, not the state, not the people he represents, him in a better position. And so one day he might act like a fiscal conservative, and it's acting. The next day he will be as far left as possible because he's afraid of a potential primary. So he stands for nothing, which means nobody trusts him.
Right.
And we're seeing that now over the course of time where people are really upset because the state is floundering. Upstate is floundering. You know, when he came down here and wagged his finger at me and others about high taxes, I've done something about it. I just put together now 7 straight years I've been in office here as county executive in Westchester. 7 straight years we have not had a property tax increase. In fact, we've cut the property taxes. Never had a property tax increase. And we have a budget that is a little less today than the one I inherited. Now, that's pretty unique, and the state has certainly not done that at all.
Right.
In fact, the mandated costs that he's been shoveling down to the locals, we're his ATM machine, they've gone up 30%. So we've had to deal with 30% increases in the state program costs that he forces us to pay, and he gets the credit going around with. So, you know, that's why I think people are really upset about him. Just that's an inside baseball game, but the average person in New York is leaving. You know, he wants to put this trail, this big thing now is a paved trail around the state. He's already had a trail. It's an exodus trail. Middle-class people are leaving the state in droves along the New York Trail to North Carolina and to Texas and to Florida.
It's almost like he's giving up on upstate and feels that if he does, you know, if he can go as far to the left as he needs, that New York City will carry him. The problem is, if he really does, although he's saying he has no intentions of running for president, but if he does down the road, he's got to fix upstate. Otherwise, how can you, with this terrible eyesore that he's left behind, how do you run for president?
He's certainly running for president. There's no question about that. But he's got a big obstacle, and that's the voters in New York in 2018 that are going to have to judge him with all the corruption, with the economy that stinks for most of the state, and, you know, where he is on all of these issues, which is out of step with a lot of voters, except for the wild and the wacky on the far left.
Yeah.
You know, in my area with Indian Point nuclear power plant that he wants to shut down, and yet, look at this, he's spending about $10 billion to bail out the 2 upstate nuclear power plants in Rochester and in Oswego. And the reasoning why he wants to close Indian Point in southern part of the state is all environmental. It's all because of the radicals. And he has said that lives are too precious, that it's a ticking time bomb. So I guess lives are precious in the southern part of the state, according to him. But upstate, if something happens, it happens.
I'm almost out of time, but I have to ask you a couple quick questions. I know during that there was, because some county executives across the state, Republicans, did endorse Cuomo when he ran against you. And a caller has asked, what are your thoughts on our county executive, Tony Piceni?
Look, Tony did what he did. That was a political thing, and I don't think Tony got much back in return, unfortunately. But, look, Tony and I have worked together on the County Executives Association. I don't really follow the politics too much with regard to the local, other than the Republican Party stuff. You know, and that's kind of all I have to say. I mean, Tony and I have made up. But
one would say he was placed in hey, you want this? You're going to have to do this to get this. And I think a lot of people were put in that position by this governor.
Maybe.
And at the end of the day, though, they didn't get what he promised.
They didn't get it, right. So that gets back to the core principles.
Are you running?
I'm running for re-election here in Westchester this year, and then after that, if I'm lucky enough to get another term, then I'll just see what the landscape is for 18 and see what happens.
As always, I've been watching Rob Astorino TV. I see you put that on. I like it.
There you go.
Rob, thanks for your time. We'll do it again. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bill.
Rob Astorino,
He's right.
Westchester County, no doubt. And a very smooth political answer right there. Got a break at WIBX.